the biggest piece of advice is you're not alone, right? This is where I found myself after going through, there's so many entrepreneurs feel they carry this weight on them. I've made myself alone, feeling I had to be able to carry this weight so much that it made me contemplate my own life, right? So don't do that. You are surrounded by amazing individuals, especially in so many cities. Like when you find your tribe, you find these people, reach out, connect. Don't feel like you have to do it alone, because if you stay in your superpower and bring the right people in, it will really allow you to be, because like I always say, we all rise up when we rise up together. So allow those people in your journey, and know it's okay. You don't have to be the best at everything. Understand your superpower. And truly, when you're starting that company, ask the closest people to you, right?
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where we focus on helping startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. And if you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com. Now, today we have another great guest on the podcast, Joshua Lee. And Josh or Joshua, whichever I end up saying, but
However
Josh
comes out.
Josh started out selling candy out of his locker in school, then played a little bit of football in high school and did well. Went to college, followed a girl, I think, and played football for a bit of time, and went to University of Texas, and then stopped 8 hours short of finishing the degree, which we'll have to talk just a little bit about. And then worked in wireless and mobile sales for a period of time, got into real estate, then got into the online advertising space. And one of his first clients was, I think, MySpace, which I don't think anybody still uses MySpace, but if you're old enough to know what MySpace is, that was certainly what in its heyday was a big thing. Made some good money and also made some mistakes, and then got married, had kids, had 7 more years to do things or do a few other things, and then wanted to hit a bit of a reset. And he'll talk a little bit about what that reset is, and then started what he's doing today. So, with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Josh.
Devin, man, happy to be here. Yeah, no, it's as you kind of go through that entire thing, I'm like, okay, wow, that's it's a lot of things to be able to go through. We'll be here for hours. No, but man, it's excited to be able to kind of jump in and be able to share. I look at it this way, right? We can be able to share that journey. It allows maybe one person, right, that's listening to be able to maybe not make that misstep that some of us have put into learning the right ways to be able to do things.
Absolutely, and couldn't agree more. So now, with that all as an intro, take us a bit back in time to how the journey started with selling locker out of the candy in school, or selling candy out of the locker, and how it got started from there.
Man, I mean, that's the thing. I think you always kind of look into it. I've had these different conversations with different people. It's like, are you born an entrepreneur or are you made an entrepreneur? And I mean, I think it's different from everyone. I think I kind of came that way just because, I mean, being an only child, I saw a lot of opportunity, just the way I kind of communicated and engaged with people. So with me, I mean, I always said, I thought that, I saw that opportunity, right? Kids needed candy. My parents were actually willing to buy it for me. So that was an opportunity to be able to go in. It's funny though, Devin, I made one bad mistake though. That was that entrepreneur back then, even in high school. It's like, how far can we take this? And I remember it was like middle school or something like that. And it was for social studies. And my family's from Germany on my mom's side. And so we had brought non-alcoholic beer to be able to kind of show off. And afterwards I was like, man, I bet I can sell this. No matter non-alcoholic or not, the school was not too pleased with my entrepreneurial finesse even at that age. So it was interesting to kind of see where that kind of played out.
No, and I agree. They're probably going to be, even if it just has the appearance of alcohol, school's probably going to place where they say, oh, let's not do that. So now you started there, you started your journey, and I agree. It's always kind of, I think some people are probably born entrepreneurs, some people become entrepreneurs, and it's a mix sometimes of both of them, or they discover they want to be an entrepreneur. But so with that, now you kind of went through high school, you played some football and went off to school. Now, how did school get going? Because I think you, if I remember right, you followed a girl part of it. You dropped out.
I did.
You stopped
yeah.
8 hours before you finished the degree. So tell us a little bit about school before you got into the working world.
Yeah, man, no worries. Well, I mean, I kind of went in like going into college. I mean, I kind of had those two different worlds where I did really well in school. Like almost aced my SAT scores way back when, but also played football. So initially it was like, I live in Texas. So, football is, is life, so that was kind of that thing. And like a girlfriend of mine at the time was going to a specific college that had opportunity to be able to play with them for the first year, University of Nacogdoches, way back when we called it Naca Nowhere because it was out in the middle of nowhere. And that's really what it was. And eventually I said, no, this is not for me. And I left and I went to the University of Texas and followed more the academic side. But even with that, man, I got distracted. I started working in the wireless world. This is back when digital was first kind of hitting. And I became one of the youngest corporate account executives over at Singular
Now,
Wireless.
I have to dive in and just stop
Yeah,
real
please.
quick on that, because you get all the way, you go to degree, even if you're saying, okay, I'm not gonna use this degree, to get all the way to 8 hours left on the degree and then just stop short. What was the decision and thought process? Or was it just, hey, I'm worn out, I'm done, I don't care how many hours I have left, or hey, I'm never going to use this degree, why pay for 8 more hours than I have to, and I'm not going to give them another dime? Or because most people say, when will I put in all this time and effort? I'm going to just finish it because I'm already 95% of the way there. So kind of what was that thought process?
My parents said the same thing. Like, what's going on? And, it really was, I just didn't go to the last semester. I was like, you know what, I'm done. There's a couple more classes I need to finish out. And I was already at a point where I was making 6 figures a year doing wireless sales as a corporate account executive at Singular / AT&T Wireless way back when. So I just didn't, I was like, and I was at that point in time, I had initially gone for a finance degree, then shifted to business development. I mean, and honestly, I was looking at the jobs I would get from the degree and I'm like, I'm going to make a lot less money. So, and this is where, a lot of my initially, as humans, as entrepreneurs, as men and stuff like that, just everyone, you're driven by that almighty dollar. And that's kind of real. It took me down a path that was like, well, I can make money. I can monetize it. Let me go that way. And to me, money was the driver point. I mean, I've had many shifts since then, but early on in my career, money was my driver point, which is for a lot of people. And that's kind of where it kind of, dove off, Devin, to be able to kind of go in that field.
So now one last question, then we'll continue on the journey.
Yeah, man, no worries.
That wishes that you would go back, either had finished or you ever desired to go back, and even if nothing else, just to get the degree, to say, okay, I finished. Is there any part of you saying, hey, it's past my journey, I don't look back, no worries?
My wife says the same thing. Like, well, you feel better because she got her, got her degree, got her MBA, all those things. And I look, I was like, look, there's a lot of, really smart people out there that sort of big companies that never got their degree. You look at Steve Jobs, you look at, these guys that are out there that, so I want to be able to go back and be like, oh, well, look at Josh. He's just like these other people. I have big aspirations on where we're going and how we're actually going to be able to affect this world. So look, I can't look back. I can only learn from the steps that I made in my past to be able to make better ones in the future.
All right. I think that's again. I mean, I think there's I would probably still, no, I'm on the opposite. I ended up getting 4 degrees, which my wife always tells me is 3 degrees too many. So I took the opposite extreme to not finishing and probably finishing way too much. But I get that, there is a thing of saying, hey, I learned a lot. I got the education I wanted, or I decided that wasn't for me. And all, a little bit, almost a sunk count or cost analysis, and let's move forward rather than go back and do or finish something that I don't really have.
If I thought it was 8 hours too, Devin, probably, but I'm pretty sure like there's a statute of limitations. I'm 42 now. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of those hours that I put in, I'd probably have to repeat. And on it, now look, I got 2 kids. So for the same thing, like we kind of go back, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, look, if it makes sense, go. My wife they need to go to college. So we'll definitely have this conversation again coming up in about, 8 to 10 years.
Fair enough. So now you go off, you say, okay, wireless sales, I got into that. This is going to be a, great opportunity, making pretty good money, is on the uptick and that. Now, what caused you to kind of transition from wireless mobile sales over to real estate?
That was the thing, right? It was that almighty dollar. It kept on. I was able to really kind of pay attention and see trends. And I mean, that's what's allowed me to be a good entrepreneur once I started my own companies, was I was able to see around the corner. I was able to kind of see what was coming and where the bigger opportunity was. This was, early 2000s when I had made this shift. So when an opportunity came, so I was like, look, man, there's amazing money in this. And so I started I went in there and I got in that real estate and got my broker's license. And, I started to kind of play in that world. But even that world, I mean, yes, there was a lot of opportunity, but I didn't like some of the people that were in how they were doing things. I mean, I remember back then I'd moved from Austin, Texas out to Long Beach, California. And yeah, people were leveraging their home, making more money on refinance every year than they were actually at their jobs. They buy their houses for 200,000, 300,000. Now they owed 800. I'm like, you're going the wrong way. This is like back in those days, like negams and reverse mortgages that would just really hurt a lot of people because wasn't explained to them, and just my heart wasn't into it anymore. And I had to it's a great opportunity. I saw that, I took the advantage of the situation when it was, but as soon as I just couldn't handle anymore, like I had to get out.
No, and it makes sense. And there is always that, hey, I'm making good money, but do I feel good about it? And if you don't feel good about it, at some point, the good money doesn't matter quite as much anymore. So with
Yeah.
that, so you went for mobile sales and you kind of chase the trend and you say, okay, real estate's a good place. Then you say, okay, I don't feel good about this anymore. My heart's not in it anymore. So now you went to online advertising. These are kind of three distinct or different, kind of industries. How
Yeah.
did you get into, or what was online advertising yet again? Kind of this is where I think the money's at, or where the trend's at, or kind of what got you now into online advertising, and kind of how did you get there? And then how did you get MySpace as one of your first clients?
So this is the interesting thing, right? Yeah, there are 100% different verticals as you kind of go through, but what I've learned over the years is, I mean, when you kind of go through, it's all dealing with human beings, right? You're talking about, mobile sales, you're talking to the human behind it, and you're in the real estate, you're still dealing with other human beings. And same thing on the advertising side. Like, honestly, it was initially a friend of mine brought me in, and I just needed to get out. So I out of the real estate side, and I had actually left, and I was, you know, in between jobs. And so I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's try this out. I mean, I remember, yeah, this is before Alexa was a thing where like, hey, Alexa, can you do, hopefully she's not going off right now, but, this is Alexa list.
Oh, my Alexa actually just went off in this room. So it heard you. Big Brother is listening.
So those are the things, right? So, kind of going through this, we use the Alexa list, which is how all the online sites are ranked across the globe. And I'll stop saying that name moving forward so we don't have to worry about that anymore. But, and so I would just go through thousands of websites, but I saw this opportunity. And the biggest shift for me and where I was able to start my own company was I was only there for about 4 months. I saw the opportunity. This was about 2003. And the owner became in here, and he was a business owner, not a business operator. And then shortly after I started there, he decided he wanted to become a business operator. And that's a massive shift in difference. When actually someone being actively in, that's not actively always in the company. And if they don't know where they're going and how to operate that business, it took a real left turn. And eventually they closed the business fairly quickly after he kind of came in, because it became very apparent he was doing it for his own reasons and funneling money the wrong way. So, but it built those relationships, right? It allowed me to be able to get in there, because at that time in the early 2000s, you had to know someone to be able to get in that industry. And so that was my door in. And when he closed the door, I back on my couch again. I said, hey, there's an opportunity. All these relationships that were there are left unchecked. And I said, let me pick them up. And I was the person that they knew. So that's where those relationships kind of started. And it just so happened one of those relationships was an early startup called MySpace. And we kind of went in there, and I had the relationships with a company that did the advertising side of it, which was Yahoo. Overture at the time, but everyone knows them as Yahoo now. And I kind of paired those. I was a middleman. I did, what we call arbitrage. I brokered the relationship. I bought the traffic low from MySpace and provided the ads, and then sold it to Yahoo for a substantial difference and made money on that margin. And so that's kind of where my entire online advertising world started, was leveraging relationships, finding the relationship with the advertising companies, not just the advertisers directly, and then building the relationship with the people that had the traffic, and then making the margin on the middle.
No, I think that's cool, and definitely makes perfect sense. And it sounds like it was a fun opportunity. Now, MySpace is gone, and I think Yahoo's still around. I see email addresses every once in a while with Yahoo on the end. I'm like, you may want to know, Yahoo got a lot of their user information hacked at one point. Somebody else probably has your login. Maybe it's that person, but no, I
Oh yeah.
think that's definitely is a fun place to take their career, and it sounds like a great opportunity at the time. Now I think if I remember right, you did that. Was that for 7 years? Around 7 years?
Yeah, I started that company in 2000, into 2003, beginning of 2004. And then I ran that and was in that world up until about 7 years ago. So, and that's where it kind of took me down a path, Devin. I mean, like I told you, that almighty dollar like really affects so many people. And I realized after building multiple different companies in that realm of monetizing every acronym you could think of, CPC, CPA, CPL, all the different online stuff, that's all it was just monetizing traffic, and there was no value, and I wasn't seeing that I was helping anyone. And honestly, by chasing that dollar, it led me to a path that I'd gotten 45 pounds overweight, never been overweight in my life. My relationships became monetary, and I had no vision about where I was going. I just knew where I was at, and it was all like this whole work life, like play as hard as I could. And I wanted to start a family, and really after starting a family, I started shifting my perspective on what I really wanted to be on this world and be able to connect with other people. And that's kind of hit my reset, which was honestly, I found myself at a point contemplating my own existence on this world. And that was the wrong way to be able to think of it. I was blessed to be able to, have a more of a divine power to say, look, take back your own, your own, being, and give that to my wife, my former. And we got divorced. And look, man, they were looking at like 3 years to be able to go through. I was running 10 different companies at the time, ranging anywhere from 6, 7, and 8 figures. And I had 2 kids, and I didn't want to take them through that. So I walked away from everything at 36 and moved back with my parents with a little bit under $1,000 in my name to be able to save that time, that one resource we don't get back, and kind of restart my life to be able to build up to where I am today.
So now, and that, I think that, sometimes you'll in your life, you're going to hit a crossroads, and for everybody, it's a bit different. I think for a lot of times with entrepreneurs, it can be, sometimes you're working for a big business, you're saying, do I really want to do this for the next 20 years? You're saying, even if I can make more money, I just don't love it. I don't enjoy it. I'd rather go do my own thing, be my own boss. And sometimes that is, I've been hustling. I've been burning things, the candle at both ends for a long period of time. I need a break,
Oh
and I
yeah.
need to take a step back. And whatever that is, I think a lot of times, and in one form or fashion, everybody kind of has that. I need to hit a reset, or I need to take a breather. So now, as you do that, and it sounds like you pulled back from some of the companies, ended up getting divorced, walking away from everything. I think as we talked a little bit before, you
Yeah.
decided, hey, the ex-wife can take everything. I just want to reset, basically my reset on all of life, and kind of doing, starting over, so to speak. So now as you're starting or hitting the reset button, how did you figure out what you wanted to do next, or where you were headed, or what that meant for you?
That was a rough patch, man. I'll be honest. I kind of left feeling free, but then really found out very quickly that I got used to, not worrying about money for a while, and, running those companies. So it was that kind of battle. And I went through like a mini depression for a little bit, because I was trying to find myself, right? At first, to be honest, Devin, I was like, I'm going to be a life coach. I wrote my book, Balance is Bullshit. I'll try not to cuss and stuff like that. All about living more of an integrated life, getting rid of this whole work-life balance that had led me to a demise, trying to achieve this balance that's unachievable. And, I realized really quickly that I didn't want to be a life coach. I was taking on a lot of people's issues that were kind of going through, but I was good at really connecting with the other human beings. And so really what I did was I paired that level of humanity, being able to help people and connect and engage with others. And I paired it with my marketing background. And then I kind of fell into, a platform that I found very unutilized, which was LinkedIn. And, being able to help people, that's kind of where we built Standout Authority, which was, how do we actually, instead of sell, right? I'd done that. How do we get rid of traffic and actually bring in truly engaged individuals? And LinkedIn, where everyone goes, oh, it's B2B. I said, wow, you know what? I get it. Everyone goes, it's B2B or B2C, but every company is run by another human being. A lot of marketers just forgot that. So truly, it's all H to H, human to human. And then that's kind of where it was built. Like, how do we actually educate, inspire, and draw people in rather than having to sell them? Because if they choose to work with you, man, that LTV, lifetime value, becomes
Mm.
so much more powerful in the relationship as you build that and grow your company.
No, and I think that makes a lot of sense, and sounds like it'd be a fun opportunity. I'm a big believer of LinkedIn. I think that there's always these spam bots and things that are aggravating, and sometimes things you don't like. But there's also a great opportunity on the business side to make connections, to have access to actually make those connections that a lot of times otherwise in life you wouldn't make those connections. And it
Oh
gives
yeah.
you ability to stand out, to be able to grow, to be able to make connections, to be able to do all that. So I think that definitely sounds like a great next pass. So that kind of brings us up a bit to where you're at today. And so now kind of, you got standoutauthority.com, which is or what you just mentioned. So
Yeah.
now if you kind of take the next, 6 to 12 months, kind of looking to the future of what it holds and where you guys are headed, what does that look for you guys?
Man, it's actually kind of beautiful because my wife just actually left corporate. She had worked at Microsoft for many years running their branding, and then moved over to Gartner and was running the digital marketing branding for them as well. And she actually just left a couple of weeks ago to be able to come partner with me at this company because, you know, to be able to do that, to be able to build that, that's what the next 6 to 12 months look like. How her and I are not only affecting people, truly humanizing the way that people are online, because your personal brand is where that stands out. And she's amazing at that, along with pairing that with what we're doing on that messaging side and really being able to bring those opportunities on LinkedIn. So, we're building out communities, we're building out different master classes to be able to teach people on a greater scale. And it's interesting. Like, we even got Devin. It was a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure if you were ever on Clubhouse or not, but we're very active on that app over there.
You know, I would have been, but first of all, I'm an Android user. My wife loves Apple. I like Apple. But my problem with Apple, and this is a complete aside, Apple is one where if you like it how it is out of the box, it works great for you. If
Right.
you like to customize it or do what you want to do with it, it doesn't let you customize it. So I'm too much of a person that likes to customize it.
So
So I
yeah,
have to go
Clubhouse only
Android.
come on
Then when
Apple. Yeah.
Clubhouse came out, it was on Apple, and so then I couldn't use it. So I think they now have it on Android.
They do.
I haven't ever actually tried. The point that I would have tried it out is may have passed, and so now I have never actually circled back and tried it. But
You're not
anyway,
alone.
just to slightly digress.
Yeah, no, man, you're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of people on there. I mean, but it's interesting. It's brought some amazing opportunities for us on that app just because it's worldwide. We're reaching audiences we never had before. And a couple of weeks ago, where you talk about the next 6 to 12 months, we might actually be doing a TV show because we actually pitched a new TV show called to this new entrepreneurial TV network that's launching. It was called Love and War, the entrepreneurial journey. So again, love your podcast because that's about that entrepreneurial journey, and having my wife and I talking about those different things from the corporate side to the other. So for us, LinkedIn and what we do there is just the vehicle. Where we see us going, where we're going is we want to be able to humanize the entire way people are online. We want to remind people that we were all born human beings. We just need to remember to be able to be that online too. And there's a better way because, Devin, I mean, I do feel a little bit, I had a hand in how we monetize this. Everyone's just a number, especially social media, because way back when MySpace, I was there. I helped them create one of the first social media ads. And so, I feel like I had a slight hand in some of where we're at now. And I want to have a bigger hand on bringing us back to getting away from everything just being a number, because that led me down a bad path. And I want to be able to, on a greater scale, be able to help, work with people like yourself, work with the people that are listening, because man, I try to change this world on my own and I can't do it. I have to be able to work with other amazing people to be able to change this world, not only for my kids, but for everyone. So we can all, leave it better than what we was given to us. And it hasn't happened in a while over the past couple of generations. We got to flip that around where we start making this world better rather than, where it was kind of going. And I think we got a good opportunity with this new reset that we just went through with COVID. So
No, I
excited.
think that sounds like you found a place that is fun, exciting, that you enjoy, and it presents a good opportunity, which are certainly great positives, and look to hold a lot in the future. So, well, now as we start to wrap up the podcast, and as we kind of have reached where you're at today and a little bit of where you're going at in the future, I always like to transition to the questions I have about the journey. Which the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
Worst business decision I ever made was, I'm going to be honest. I was sitting at the Playboy Club in Las Vegas, and we was playing, forget, we were Texas Hold'em or something like that. I was sitting with a friend and he was pitching me, like he had just sold his business, and he was like, "Hey Josh, I know you're building something right now. Man, you should just, buy this, our quote unquote source code, for our platform, because we just sold it." And I didn't do any due diligence. It was two guys trying to, talk about who's tougher, right? And be able to go through. I'm like, yeah, of course. And it was a $1.3 million bet that I made. And it actually resulted in me losing almost $10 million in revenue over the next year, because I didn't do any due diligence. The process wasn't done. Whatever he had sold, he ended up having to get his company back because even the people walked away from it. So it was, as I always say, duct tape together. So with anything, if you're going to do any investing, make any business decision, due diligence. It's really important to actually take time out to be able to look and see what you're buying before you do that. And just don't let your ego get in the way.
No, and I think that, you hear that and you're like, wow, that was a big mistake. That's a lot of money. And yet at the time, a lot of times I think what you want to jump by the due diligence. Either it's ego and you say, oh, I know more. I don't need to do due diligence. I'm smart enough, or I can read people or anything else. Or two, you get so caught up in the idea and you're like, oh, there's so many things I could do here, so many opportunities. And both of which, you kind of go on more of that emotional side. And then in the meantime, you get caught with the things that if you had done your due diligence, you would have caught, but because you got so excited about the opportunity, what's going on, that you didn't do that, it can be a mistake. So I'm a big proponent of due diligence. It's easy to overlook, or it's easy to not do, even though you should be doing it, but I think it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, man. No, 100%. And that's kind of where you see these things. And I think it affects a lot of entrepreneurs. They get excited, right? Like, oh, shiny object, squirrel. My dog loves, he's jumping right now. I said the magic word. And that's kind of happens with entrepreneurs too. Like, oh, I'm going to be able to save time and I'm going to jump. Sometimes it works, but if you are, just take your time out, take that second, breathe, and then make that decision, because I guarantee it'll benefit you in the long run.
No, I absolutely agree with you. So second question I always ask is, if you're talking to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
If you're going to get in there, I mean, the biggest piece of advice is you're not alone, right? This is where I found myself after going through. There's so many entrepreneurs feel they carry this weight on them. I made myself alone, feeling I had to be able to carry this weight so much that it made me contemplate my own life, right? So don't do that. You are surrounded by amazing individuals, especially in so many cities. Like when you find your tribe, you find these people, reach out, connect. Don't feel like you have to do it alone, because if you stay in your superpower and bring the right people in, it will really allow you to be, because like I always say, we all rise up when we rise up together. So allow those people in your journey, and know it's okay. You don't have to be the best at everything. Understand your superpower. And truly, when you're starting that company, ask the closest people to you, right? Go in there. Like if Devin, you and I were like buddies from like 15 years, I'd go to you like, Devin, okay, I'm going to start a business. If you had one thing you would pay me for, what would it be? If your friends can't think of anything, you might want to just kind of take a second back and kind of reevaluate and be able to work on your pitch first.
No, and I think that's good. And we'll be buddies in the next 15 years. We're not buddies,
Exactly.
buddies yet, but we started a good relationship as of now.
Yeah, man.
No, I think that, if you're to take that, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that. Oftentimes as an entrepreneur, you think you have to do it all. You have to do it alone. You have to do it, and it could be everything from you don't think others will do it right, or, it's going to take too long to get people up to speed, or any number of things. And yet oftentimes you forego the resources you have that would make you successful because you're trying to do it on your own. And you still may be successful on your own, but there's so many times that you'd have such a higher likelihood of success and a higher likelihood of being successful if you would just utilize those resources. So I think that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, or they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, or find out more?
Devin, man, of course they can always go to standardauthority.com, but honestly, kind of where you and I met as well too, LinkedIn. I love when people listen to your podcast, the podcast that I'm on, and they reach out and they tell me why they listen to your podcast, right? Send me a personal message on LinkedIn. You can find me at Joshua B. Lee. I'm on there on LinkedIn, and when you reach out, be like, man, I listen to Devin because of X, Y, or Z, right? Because then that helps me build a better relationship with you, because then I can go back in and be like, Devin, dude, look at these things that people said about you. I'm able to share that. So not only does it let me understand why they're listening, but it also lets me build a better relationship with you as well too.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on the website, or any other ways. Definitely a lot of resources there, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of expertise. So, well, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been it's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you that are listeners, if you have your own journey to tell and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, feel free to go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. We'd love to have you and share your journey. Two more things as the listeners. One, make sure to click subscribe in your podcast player so you know when all of our awesome episodes come out. And two, leave us a review so other people can find out about all of our awesome episodes. Last but not least, if you ever need help with patents, trademarks, or anything else with your business, just go to strategymeeting.com. We're always here to help. Thanks again, Josh. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. And wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Appreciate it, my friend.